In the Old Testament, in Deuteronomy 6:5, God says, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your strength." And then in Matthew, in the New Testament, Jesus reaffirms this and goes even further by saying, "This is the first and greatest commandment." That you and went on to say that you need to love the Lord your God more than your children, more than your family. Why do you think he said it? Why do you think he just said it because, oh, God has a big ego? No. Just because he, he wanted to be loved the most? No. I mean, he does. But there's a reason behind it. Because, again, creating warriors. Go back to Abraham. Abraham trusted God so much and loved God so much that if God was going to tell him to sacrifice Isaac, he was going to do it. Because he knew that there was a reason behind it and God would make it right. But he had full faith and trust and loved him before his children. That's what he wanted everybody on this planet to do, was put him before anybody in your family. Why? Because you're living in wickedness all around you that constantly influences others, sometimes with money, or other times, many times, it's because somebody comes up to them and says, "You're going to do this, or I'm going to hurt your family. I'm going to kill your kids." By reinforcing, had the world done it, reinforcing that the number one person I love even more than my kids is God, it was to protect you so that you were strong in that. So that then when that wicked influence comes and says, "If you don't do this, I'm going to kill your family," you say, "I love God more than my family." And if everybody did that, then guess what? Satan can't infiltrate. But God allows the wicked one to run around and still influence because of men like this who never get it. This is Lance Wallina from Bethel. He came up with the 7 mountain mandate. But there's a ton of him. Okay? The 7 mountain mandate teaches that Christians must strategically invade, conquer, and dominate the 7 mountains: family, religion, education, media, arts and entertainment, business, and government, through spiritual warfare, prayer mapping of demonic strongholds, prophecy intercession, and placing believers in influential positions to transform society and establish God's kingdom on earth. And some of the strategies: spiritual mapping and warfare. Research territorial spirits controlling each mountain, identifying demons via prophecy, and conduct on-site prayer to expel them, akin to Israel's conquest of Canaan. Okay, so Jesus didn't say any of this, okay? Jesus makes things so much easier than mankind does. Occupational influence. Position kingdom-minded leaders in top roles across spheres using authority, emotional intelligence. Excuse me. Emotional intelligence and convergence of personal gifts for societal takeover. Engage via events like Courage Tour and Project 19 to sway elections, targeting key counties for voter turnout aligned with Dominion goals. So let's see, we almost have 7 Satan words that go along with his 7 Satan mountain mandate. We have dominion, we have takeover, we have invade, conquer, and dominate. Okay, so at no time did Lance ever realize that Satan influenced this whole plan. This whole plan that him and Turning Point and Charlie Kirk and a bunch of stupid men who don't know themselves, okay, think that the way they are going to topple evilness or Satan is this stupidness, when really what this does is they become the very thing that they're conquering. But he's not going to know that because he doesn't know himself. If he knew himself, he would know God better, and the shepherd's voice would let him know, yeah, no, I'm not influencing any of this. You are, because you're letting the one I've let reign influence you. And I continue to let him influence you until you get it through your thick skull that you are not conquering anything. Once you conquer all this, you'll just become the very thing that you were trying to conquer. Because somehow you think you can deceive Satan. You think you are going to overcome Satan. I mean, Jesus gave us reign. He said we will tread on serpents. But listen here, bud. He will let you know when you can tread on serpents. You just don't go half-assed all out by yourself saying, I'm going to be treading on serpents, when you don't even realize Satan himself influenced your stupid mountains. Lance frames this as fulfilling Revelation 17 and Isaiah 2, where Christian dominance ushers in end times reign of Christ, rejecting mere evangelism for full cultural and governmental control. Direct wealthy donors to fund grassroots efforts, including ballot harvesting and ads to swing districts to secure Christian influence in government mountain. Okay, so let's just, everybody knows the Serenity Prayer. Let's break that down, because clearly Turning Point and Lance and many of these people don't seem to understand it. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can with God, and wisdom to know the difference. Lance here clearly doesn't understand the basics. There's only one Almighty that will conquer this, because God is letting Satan control because of people like you. This was not your assignment, Lance. You didn't seem to understand the assignment God gave you. God would have to tackle this. You were expected to know yourself, because the more you know yourself, the better you'll know God. And then he will let you know, oh no, I have nothing to do with this. So just scrap it and put it in the shredder and stop trying to change the world, because you won't change it without me. And this doesn't have Jesus anywhere on it. This has man. This is what we're going to do. This is what the left does. And that's where it all ends up being. That you will never get them off this track. And that's why I say over and over again, get out of God's way. Because what you all show is that you don't have enough faith to just surrender and let God do it. If everybody knew self best, they'd know the shepherd's voice, they'd follow the shepherd's voice. That's what God wants to see. God wants to see that you can realize, and it's something it's easier for women to do, because you've all trained us in the history of the world to be submissive. So women have an easier time submitting and surrendering to God. We would much rather surrender to him than this kind of stuff. I'm just saying. Okay, I mean, so women hear the shepherd's voice. Easy. You, along with Turning Point, all of you fools, okay, need to surrender to God and stop playing God. Because if you really want God to rule this kingdom and let him stop having Satan influence, then you need to realize that you are not God. God doesn't need your 7 mountain mandates. He needs you to know yourself. That's what he needs.